the impending U.S. Navy deployment of a high-tech destroyer in the Pacific area. And this is what the U.S. Navy calls the Batman ship, because it is high-tech. This is the new ship, Zumba, a 10,000-ton guided missile destroyer, the Zumwalt class destroyer, high-tech, very stealthy. It is touted to have the capability to approach the city without being detected, and can be a one-man wrecking crew because of the very sophisticated and deadly weapon system. The Zumwalt, the Batman ship, is touted as a one-man wrecking crew. It will be stationed in the Asia-Pacific area, and it has the potential of altering the balance of power in the region. And surprise of all surprises, imagine, this is what you call, even in politics, no permanent friends, no permanent enemies. Vietnam had a 10-year war with the United States, but now Vietnam is calling on the U.S. to play a greater role in the South China Sea. Australia followed suit by issuing a warning again against China intimidating neighbors. And the South China Sea runway sparked warning from the U.S. And of course, now we have the U.S.-ASEAN summit, a very dramatic development. President Obama leading the way, and succeeding in having a statement, a joint statement issued by the United States and the ASEAN countries, including our own president. And I'll mention the specific, what is my analysis here? The Sunnylands Agreement is a historic event, as it cements an ASEAN bond against the use of force. For the first time, an ASEAN bond. It is a strong signal to China to adhere to the rule of law, especially UNCLOS in relation to its 9-line claim. The most important implication of the Sunnylands Agreement is on the imminent ruling by the Permanent Court of Arbitration in the Philippine case against China. Should the Philippines win, we can expect support from ASEAN to honor the ruling and scatter its 9-line fiction. It is a tacit expression of support for any legal means to persuade China to adhere to the rule of law. This includes freedom of navigation, patrols by the U.S. Navy, and other navies in the world. The U.S.-ASEAN Accord is the result of China's over-aggressiveness that is now backfiring on itself. And the joint statement, I'd like to quote in particular 2 paragraphs of the joint statement. Number 6, firm adherence to a rules-based regional and international order that upholds and protects the rights and privileges of all states. Paragraph 7, shared commitment to peaceful resolution of disputes, including full respect for legal and diplomatic processes, that means the PCA, without resorting to the threat or use of force in accordance with the universally recognized principles of international law and the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. But this was followed immediately by a response from China. China's missile deployment in the South China Sea. It made the front pages, it made the headlines. The leftist group announced that it's an act of war, a statement that I find rather strange. And the headline said, China just upped the stakes in the South China Sea. But what happened here is that the deployment is not in this practice area. It is not in one of the artificial islands that they constructed. It is all the way up north, about 200 miles from this practice area, and about 400 miles from Palawan, in Woody Island, in the Paracels area, Darkan Island, in that area. And as already correctly mentioned by Justice Carpio, you're not talking of a long range here, only about 200 kilometers. It is no threat to the Philippines because I don't think we have any air assets that intend to fly over the Paracel area, not in the foreseeable future. But it will be a threat to the air patrols being conducted by the U.S. Navy. And what is my Australia, New Zealand urge China to show restraint as a response to this deployment of missiles. India also talk about peace and security in the South China Sea, again referring also to the surface layer missiles deployed by China. What is my take here, my analysis? In the South China Sea situation, it is very important that the Philippines strengthen our security and economic engagement with India. I'm referring to India's statement about the missile deployment, because I consider India not only as a good economic partner, but also as a very effective strategic partner. As shown by the response of the US, Australia, and India, it now appears that the world is righteously ganging up on China. They're ganging up on China. And here I have my comments on the report that China installed a battery of HQ-9 missiles in the Paracels. This appears to be an escalation of the militarization game in the South China Sea. It is meant to deter intrusion by US planes into the airspace of the Paracels. It is around, by the way, the Paracels had been occupied by China for about 40 years already, and it is the site of their headquarters of Sanxia City, which is their local government to supervise the South China Sea. It is around 200 nautical miles from the Spratlys and not a threat to the Philippines, but it will delimit the movement of US air assets in the area. But this can be a prelude to China's full militarization of the artificial islands in the Spratlys, including Mischief Reef. China advances in a creeping manner. Yung China gumagapang yan. One step, they stop, they listen, and they try to figure out whether the world is complaining. If it is quiet, then they move another step. Gumagapang. Should the Paracels missiles go unchallenged, I predict their next move is to deploy missiles in Paracels Reef and even Mischief Reef. The developments in the coming months will depend on how the US and even Japan and Australia respond to this reported missile deployment by China. Of course, the US and the EU warning on arbitral tribunal. It's back to the arbitral tribunal, and the warnings are very clear. The United States and the European Union warned China on Wednesday, this was only last Wednesday, that it should respect an international court ruling expected later this year on its dispute with the Philippines over territory in the South China Sea. So you can see we can depend on, we can look forward to US and EU support if the arbitral ruling will be in our favor. If even the United States issued a very strong statement by a senior official of the Department of Defense of the United States, and I quote her, "We need to be ready to be very loud and vocal in harmony together, standing behind the Philippines and the rest of the ASEAN claimants to say that this is international law. This is incredibly important. It's binding on all parties." And she ended by saying, "Certainly, reputational cost is at stake, but we can think of other creative ways to perhaps impose cost as well." Creative ways. What would that mean? It could be more patrols, it could be a military challenge, it could be economic sanctions, but I hope that they're going to walk the talk. And finally, I would like to end by saying, with respect to the arbitral tribunal ruling that we expect to be in our favor, I'd like to reiterate my position that China cannot ignore the arbitral tribunal ruling due to international pressure. They're going to face immense international pressure. Their statement that they will ignore it is easier said than done. So on that note, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to this forum. This is my first opportunity to talk before a big group like this in Paranaque, but I've always been speaking to other groups, just like Justice Cabe and I. We've been going around delivering the message that we must get together. By the way, there's going to be another rally, and Marcha is going to be a participant on February 25 in front of the Chinese consulate. And we are doing this jointly with the Association of Vietnamese Students in the Philippines. In fact, it was the Association of Vietnamese Students that started this, and we expressed our support. We're going to send our delegation. Of course, some people are wondering, where will I go on February 25? Will I go to EDSA or will I go to the Chinese consulate? Well, EDSA, if you ask me, I was a participant in EDSA. EDSA is about the past. EDSA is about history. But the Chinese consulate is about the present. It is about our future, a very important part of our future. If you ask me, I know where to go. To me, the Sanlubungan is not going to be on EDSA, but it will be in the Chinese consulate. Maraming salamat po.